I think I may have stumbled onto a cheat code for figuring out the Acolyte. Well, I got a lot to unpack, so let's get to it. What's up, Star Wars fans? My name is Prince, and I'm an urban acolyte. And if you want to talk about Star Wars, then hey, you got the right place. There's no clickbait, rage bait, monetized hate, pseudo-intellectual alcoholics, definitely no Disney shills here. It's just deep discussions on Star Wars and none of the BS and drama and politics. So, as I was saying, I think I have stumbled onto a cheat code for figuring out the Acolyte, and it all came because I was tugging at the strings of a comment that I read made by the co-producer Leslye Headland. So after the reveal that Chimere was the stranger or the master, sorry y'all, I got a sip on this. It's like I was saying, after the big reveal that wasn't really a big reveal because she said she was trying to make it completely obvious. And just to touch on that, I left it out of my first video on episodes 1 and 2. Chimere he actually told the Jedi that he was the master. Like when they came to the apothecary and Soul is questioning Chimere, and he's like, where's May's master? Where can we find him? And he points at Yord and he said, I thought he was with you. Now he played it off like he was pointing at Yord, and I thought, wait a minute, is he? The first thing I thought was, oh, he's pointing at Yord and he's making a joke. But then I was like, wait a minute, what if this is like a slick way of saying, yeah, he's with you, like he's literally here with you. And so I started thinking that Chimere might actually be the master, and it turned out it was true. But after we got, we knew for sure, she said that the inspiration for the character, Chimere, the stranger, the master, came from a Wuxia movie, a 1966 movie, Come Drink With Me, starring Chang Pei Pei, the woman who can be credited as helping to rediscover Bruce Lee. If you watch my Golden Bell training channel, then you may have heard that story about how Chang Pei Pei helped rediscover Bruce Lee. But anyway, this movie, Come Drink With Me, I'd seen it 15 years ago. And I was reading the articles and they're like, there's a character in the movie, Drunken Cat, and Drunken Cat is actually a Shaolin Kung Fu master. And I kept thinking, I'm like, I don't remember the movie that well. And I was kind of getting it confused with My Dear Auntie, which is another movie that came out around that same time. Same kind of flying swordsman, wuxia genre, those old Shaw Brothers films. And something just kept bugging me, like, okay, yeah, it makes sense. Like he's a flipped version of Drunken Cat, but the whole Shaolin master thing, I'm like, I don't remember that. I don't remember this guy. And then I went and I started looking at trailers from the movies, and there was a video I watched here on YouTube where Drunken Cat is singing a song, and I'm like, this guy, he looks like he would be like a Beggar Sue type character. He doesn't look like, there's nothing that screams Shaolin Kung Fu master in hiding. I mean, his hair is grown out long. He's got a beard. Like, how long has this dude been away from the temple? So that like, it been bugging me for a week. And then today, like, I'm a little bit under the weather. That's why I keep sipping my hot water and lime. My daughter's sick. My wife is starting to come down with it. So while they were asleep, I said, well, I got time. I'm going to take a break from editing and working on my episode 6 discussion. I'm going to watch this movie because this has been nagging me. And man, I kind of wish I hadn't, because that's why I'm doing this off the dome chat with you guys. Is like, it's like, I really wish I hadn't tugged on that string. All right, so I don't really know how to. I'm just gonna go. All right, so the movie starts out, and this is different from the Acolyte, but it's gonna make sense in like 30 seconds or less. All right, so when the movie starts out, you see this caravan. There's the governor's son. They're transporting a prisoner. They get ambushed by a gang. The prisoners are members of that gang that's ambushing the caravan, but the governor already has the leader of the gang in prison, and so they kidnap the governor's son, and of course free the other gang members and kill the rest of the caravan, the bodyguards for the governor's son, and they're like, we're gonna hold you for ransom. We'll ransom you to your father, the governor, in exchange for the leader of our gang. And where they take him, their headquarters is this, I started to say Shaolin Temple, but I was watching the dubbed version, I don't really watch foreign, like dubbed versions of the foreign films, because sometimes the translations are wrong, even though even the subtitles could be wrong too. But sometimes you can pick up on certain words, but they never like make it clear that it's the Shaolin Temple. It's just, and there's other Buddhist temples besides the Shaolin Temple. That's just one temple. Even in that area, there's other, where like the actual Shaolin Temple is in Henan. There's other temples around there, at least so I've heard. I've never been myself. But anyway, my point is, they never say that this is the Shaolin Temple, but their headquarters is at this temple. So these monks are in collusion with this gang. And so it's like, all right, so you already have an issue here. Are you guys kind of already starting to see the connection that there's this gang, these thieves and murderers and killers is they're being called, within this temple, right? You following me? All right, so then we jump to, and they mention, it was like, oh, well, everything's all good as long as, we stay away from Golden Swallow. He's a hero. He's this great hero, and we might have trouble if the governor sends Golden Swallow. So then they jump to this kind of this inn that has like a bar, like a restaurant and a bar. We'll say it's like kind of like a cantina, or more like the noodle shop that we see at the beginning of the Acolyte. Now, see, this is why I was saying I wish I hadn't kept pulling on the strings, because I remember reading, and I can't remember where I read it, but Leslye Headland said something about that noodle shop scene being inspired by Come Drink With Me. That's why I wanted to see the movie, because I'm like, wait a minute, I thought she said like the fight between May and Master and Dara was kind of loosely inspired by the fight in the inn, the tavern, restaurant, whatever you want to call it. It was all of these things. That's why it's like inn, restaurant, tavern, bar. It was all of these things. If you see the movie, like it's a hotel and a restaurant and a bar, and it kind of has a similar setup to the noodle shop in the opening scene of episode 1 of the Acolyte, right? But I thought I read that she said that it was inspired, and then it's like Chimera is inspired, and I'm like, how much inspiration did she take from this movie? And that's why I'm chatting with you guys, because I'm like, yo, man, I feel like this is a cheat code for the Acolyte, and maybe it is, maybe it isn't, but because I'm wondering, like, the things that I've seen so far, I'm like, oh, this really lines up with the movie, but how does it end? Because things are a little bit different, right? Because we got Osha and May. Now I'm just gonna not beat around the bush. May is Golden Swallow for now, because we're in episode 6, and I haven't posted my episode 6 review. I've read things that Leslye said, but Osha and May are in the process of flipping. Osha's going to take on more of May's characteristics. May is going to take on more of Osha's characteristics. There really is a yin and yang relationship with the two of them. And there's this big misunderstanding of yin and yang, and even with balance in the force. Yin and yang, the early Taoists, when they talked about yin and yang, they described it as a mountain, right? You have a mountain on the sun shines on one side, and as the sun, goes across the sky, the shadows move, right? So this side of the mountain, the sun is shining on, but what happens when the sun moves? Now this side is in the shade, and this backside is in the light, right? And that's why I'm like, well, you talk about balance in the force. That doesn't mean get rid of the dark side. Balance isn't a scale. It's just this one is waning, one is waxing, one is waning, and they're in relation to one another, right? So that's what's happening with Osha and May, is one becomes more passive, the other one becomes more aggressive. For the sake of this, one becomes Golden Swallow and one becomes not Golden Swallow. So right now, Golden Swallow's at this inn. The gang shows up, right? At first, they didn't know who Golden Swallow. They thought Golden Swallow was a man, but now they followed. Actually, no, when the fight first starts, they don't know that she's Golden Swallow. They just are out to fight this chick, and then it's like, oh, snap. This is Golden Swallow. But not to beat around. She beats the brakes off of these dudes in the gang, sends them all back to the temple. Why is this gang of thieves and murderers and crooks, why is their headquarters in this Buddhist monastery, right? And it wasn't an abandoned monastery. There were monks actively practicing there, right? The monks were keeping them. And so I looked at the gang as those are the four Jedi who were involved in whatever's on Brendock. We learned that Golden Swallow is actually the governor's daughter, so they have kidnapped her brother. So she's out to fight this gang because they have kidnapped her brother. Like I said, May is Golden Swallow, like Golden Swallow in the story. When she starts out, she's out to get the gang that is responsible for setting the witch's coven on fire and kidnapping her sister, right? Because she knows that. Actually, I don't think she knows it, right? She didn't know that Osha survived, but when she finds out, so in her cases, they killed everybody. They killed her sister, but they were going to take her sister. And then later when she finds out, oh, my sister's Jedi scum. Oh, and in the conversation, they took you away from the family, right? So it's still the same thing. It's just for whatever reason, had a brain fart and thought that, she knew that Osha survived and the Jedi took her away. But she blames them for everything, right? If the Jedi had never showed up and tried to take her sister, none of the stuff would have happened in her mind. So it's still the same thing that the gang, took Golden Swallow's brother. In this case, the Jedi took everything from her, took her family and her sister. So, at some point, the gang comes back in the middle of the night to assassinate her. But what had happened was, this drunk steals all her stuff. And so she's chasing after him, and she's like, well, and she never stops to think, I'm a Kung Fu master. I've got light body skill. Light body skill is, if you've seen Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, that's how they can fly and jump and or any wuxia movie or series. That's how they, or the Jedi, when they jump and can do all these crazy acrobatics and everything, right? In wuxia, in that it's light body skill, right? So she never stops to think, how does this guy have light body skill too? She's just trying to chase him and get her stuff back. And then at some point, he leaves it somewhere and disappears, and she finds it. And when she comes back, she fights the assassins that came to kill her. But it's like, oh, if he hadn't taken my stuff, I would have been asleep in bed and they would have got me. I would have got, right? So So we already see that, yo, man, there's something to this drunk guy. And I compare that to when the same episode too. I didn't even I like wasn't even paying attention. I blanked out, but other people who thought that the possibility that Chimere could be the master, when May attacks him with her knives, with her daggers, right? And he's just kind of evading everything and she can't touch him at all. And I didn't even think about that yo, man, she has the force. He should not be able to dodge her the way he is, like, so easily. He just kind of easily dismissed her. And I completely missed that. And I missed her pay attention to detail. I was just not thinking about it. Like, oh, you know, she tried to stab him and he got out of the way. And I'm not thinking like who she is supposed to be and what she's supposed to be. And apparently she didn't think about it either, because I was going into episode 5 and I started to say this and I started to make another video, and I'm glad I didn't, because I was going to say, if we have figured out so easily, it's so apparent that Chimere is the master, I think May knows too. And she would do things when they were talking in episode 4 where it seemed like she knew, like she was trying to press him for information. I'm like, oh, I think she knows. And then he would say stuff back that would like trigger her to throw her off. And I'm like, she's got to know. But I mean, you know, when he was choking her out, he was like, you really didn't know. And she was just as shocked as, so it was one of those things. I don't know. That actually might have been kind of bad acting on Amanda's part, because she had me really thinking that she knew, or maybe it's good acting, I don't know, but the way her facial expressions, I was like, I think she knows. It might be in my notes, but anyway, let's get back to this. What happened next? There was the restaurant scene. She buys food she gives money to the beggar, the drunken cat, and the kids, because he's always got these kids around that sing and beg for, they're like orphans, they beg for money. The whole him having these orphans around him all the time makes sense when we get his real backstory. But drunken cat has the kids sing this song, and it's actually, she goes back and she's like, because she's trying to get information on the gang. And somehow she goes back to her room at the inn and she starts singing the song to herself and realizes it's the coded message that the gang is at the temple. So she goes to the temple without thinking, just, I'm Golden Swallow. I'm this big badass hero. I'm going to fight all of these people. She has no idea how big the gang is. And she's doing okay until she meets their leader. And then she starts having problems. They're like evenly matched, but it's like, yo, you still got like 20 other guys that, you know, keep jumping in trying to get licks. And so you got to watch your back with these other guys while you're trying to fight this dude who I think the leader was a eunuch. I can't remember. Just looking at him, I mean, the way he was presented, it was like a eunuch. And so in Wuxia, eunuchs always had, since they, you know, they chop off their wieners, so they, you know, they don't lose their jing. Eunuchs always have like super kung fu, right? So, you know, they're like, they're a lot of times they're like the big bad guy. I think there's one, I think Michelle Yeoh was in it. I can't, it's something about with the assassins or something. And I think like the eunuch is like just mowing through everybody, the heroes, you're like, oh, the heroes, surely they could fight him. And then they just get destroyed. And the whole thing is this eunuch is he's trying to get like some magic relic that'll basically help him regrow his ding dong, his lightsaber. He's trying to get his lightsaber. He's like, oh man, I you know, like he's running around having to disguise his voice and everything because he's got this effeminate voice, but he's, you know, kind of doing the I got this raspy voice, and, you know, talking like that when he's in his bad guy mode, you know, in his disguise. And so, yeah, I'm pretty sure this dude was a eunuch. And so she ends up escaping the fight because it's just too many of them. But the whole time, like, she doesn't know it. Drunken Cat is like helping her from like the shadows, right? Like he threw like a banana at one point when she dropped her daggers, and the eunuch, I think his name is like Jade-Faced Tiger or something. Jade-Faced, that's what I'm going to go with. Jade-Faced Tiger is like about to land like to kill it. Oh, yeah, because she fell. First, she lost one of her daggers. Like they got sword locked, and she fights with 2 daggers. And it broke the sword lock. One of her daggers got lodged into a pillar, so she only has one, and she's still fighting him. And then she trips. And yeah, he was gonna land the killing blow. Drunken Cat throws a banana, right? So, banana in the tailpipe, right? So he slips on a banana. She's able to get up and run and grab her other dagger, you know. And then there's some other stuff. Still, she has to like fight off some more of the gang members. And I think Drunken Cat like did something that gave her an opening to escape. But then Jade-Faced Tiger throws a poison tipped dart into her shoulder, right? So she's poisoned, and they're like, oh, she's not gonna make it far. And so this her going to the temple to confront the gang, and what's his name? Drunken Cat has to help her fight the gang from the shadows, is like the events on Khofar, right? Now, what happens on Khofar? Hey, we saw that in episode 4 and 5, right? The master, actually, May flips on the masters like, I'm gonna turn myself in. You guys know what happened, and then Chimere shows up as the master and wrecks all the Jedi. And who gets hurt? Who's wounded? Osha. That's why I said they're gonna flip. May is golden. What's her name now? Golden Swallow. And then Osha becomes Golden Swallow, because Osha, remember, I kept saying, how did she get injured? How did she get that injury? Was it from May force pushing her and she hit the rock? But why does she have like a hole, you know, in her side? Like, did the rock like puncture her, or did May take Yord's lightsaber and stab her? Like, oh, well, that's something to get rid of you. Because I thought it was a lightsaber wound, but I don't know. All we know is that she was injured. And I say that's like that because what happened with Golden Swallow after the poison tip dart, he shot it through his fan. After Jade-Faced Tiger shot her with the poison tip dart, and the gang is out looking for her. Drunken Cat finds her, takes her back to his lair. That's where we are in episode 5. Chimere finds Osha, takes him back to his lair on the unknown planet that's got all this these cortosis veins running all over through it, which is why he chose that place as his lair, is, you know, so he could have cortosis armor eventually, or maybe he wants more than just a helmet. Nurses her back to health. And in this movie, he doesn't take her on as a student because she's already a kung fu expert. She's not a master yet, but she's an expert. Now, what happens there? This is where we're okay. I don't know what's going to happen, but I can only talk about what is, because I've seen this. I just finished watching this movie a few hours ago. Is that the gang eventually they make it to a Drunken Cat's little campsite, his home. He had a little house out in the woods, right? And he's kind of, you know, they're like, oh, well, yeah, we're just gonna take her back. Yeah, it's all good, man. Like, you know, we don't want any harm. We just want to take her back, and we want to talk to her. She's got some, she's our friend, and you know, they're BSing and all of this, and it's like one of them tries to reach for her and he like trips, and he's got like this creek in his little campsite home, whatever. And the dude like reaches for her to touch her, and then he ends up in the creek where Drunken Cat tripped the guy, but he did it in a way where it looked like the dude just fell, and then like these guys are all just, they end up all on their butts basically. And so now they're like, okay, we know you did something, and they like pull their weapons on him, and then he like gets all serious all of a sudden. He's like, so you have chosen death. You don't like living, you've chosen death. Right? Right. So he kills him. And then the most gangster thing ever, he loads up his cart and takes them all back to the temple, and he tells the leader of the gang that, hey man, there was this little girl and I just saw the craziest fight, and she asked me if you have anything to tell her. Also, hey, she said that poison was really weak, right? But meanwhile, she really did almost die. He had to like suck the poison out and everything. And so now they're like really, really pissed. Like they really want her dead. Like, she just killed some more. She injured a bunch of the gang members at first. And when she showed up at the temple, she had to run with her, legs or tail between her legs, and she got hit with the dart. But she took out a lot of those gang. And they're like, every time we come into contact with her, I lose my men. And so they're like really irritated. Well, the abbot of the temple has been away this whole time. So after this guy leaves and goes back to his home where Golden Swallow is, I think he had to kill those guys also because he didn't want the gang to know where he lived. And so it's like, well, if I let him go, they're going to send more people, right? So, hey man, I don't make the rules. I can't exist. If you see me, you have to die. I don't make the rules. You guys do. Right? Didn't Chimere say that? I didn't even think about that until as I'm talking with you guys. Like they couldn't know where he lived, and another reason for that is because when the abbot of the monastery shows up, they're like, "Oh yeah, the abbot's not here. He's off looking for someone." We find out that the abbot was looking for Drunken Cat. So this is where we get the background story on Drunken Cat, is that the abbot found Drunken Cat when he was a little kid, an orphan. They had the same master, and that's why I was like, I don't remember any Shaolin. Yeah, there's monks in this movie, and the abbot is dressed like a Shaolin monk, but that's just that's like if you don't know and you see like, oh, well, he's Chinese and he's a monk, he's a Buddhist monk, he must be a Shaolin monk because that's how Shaolin monks, and it's like all of the monks in that particular branch of Buddhism dress like that, right? All of temple monks here in Thailand, all of the temple monks that are like at temples in the city, they dress a certain way. The monks that are like in they call it a different tradition, and I'm not at all familiar with Theravada Buddhism, especially Thailand's flavor of Theravada Buddhism. There's so many people, oh, it's Buddhist is Buddhist is Buddhist. No, it's just like Christians. You got foot washing Baptists, free will Baptists, Southern Baptists, Black Baptists, American Baptists. That's just the Baptists, right? We didn't talk about all the other denominations, right? So, it's not Buddhist is Buddhist is Buddhist. They're all Buddhists right now. They're different. So like I was saying, like this other tradition of, the two main traditions of Buddhism here, their robes are slightly different, right? But you could see, the monks, there's a temple that way down the street and a temple down on Beach Road that way. If you understand how my house is orientated, or, every now and then there's like people who watch some of my channels that live here. So, It's no big secret where I live. I don't want to dox myself, but people who know where I am, they'd understand. That way Beach Road, that way is towards Sukhumvit. There's a temple that way on Sukhumvit, and there's a temple that way on Beach Road. They all wear the same color robes because they're, city monks. So this dude, that's a long tangent of me trying to say that this dude is dressed like a Shaolin monk, but that doesn't necessarily mean he's Shaolin, and he knows Kung Fu, right? He's this Kung Fu master. But the way I understood it after watching the movie was, oh, well, he became a monk and he's the abbot of the monastery, but he doesn't say anything about his master. And what they say is that they're basically from like the same like martial arts society, which is a thing in Wuxia, right? You have these different like societies, these different clans. That's where I really would like to see Star Wars go. I don't know if I've said this to you guys in a video. It's like something that's been on my mind, that like the future of Star Wars, where I'll really talk more about this after I get caught up on all the other shows, because I know like there's Ahsoka and Ezra and what she's doing with Sabine. I haven't watched it. I've pretty much been spoiler free on that stuff, but there's some stuff you kind of know, and I'm not, oh man, you spoiled it for. I don't care, because if this channel gets back popping, people are gonna be asking me stuff all the time and not knowing that I may have not seen it, or people will go out of their way to try to spoil stuff for me, like this one dickhead kept trying to do for the Last Jedi. He saw the visual dictionary before it came out, officially, and before the movie was out, and he was like sending me pictures and asking me questions. I ended up blocking him on everything, because I'm like, bro, like, stop trying to spoil the movie for not just me, but like other people in the Facebook group, or other people who might see what you're, wanting me to comment on. And, maybe I just really want to know what you think. And I'm like, well, if you really want to know, wait until the movie's out and I get the visual dictionary from Amazon a few days later. Like, wait. Right. But with stuff where it's like, it's been a year or whatever, I'm like, it's my fault. Matter of fact, I gotta like study up on other channels. So if they've got a video that's popping on something I haven't seen, and I'm gonna get spoiled, because I gotta study the video, right? Part of, job, part of YouTube, just the way I do YouTube, at least. I don't know other people, maybe they don't study other channels and do all the research and stuff on, let me stop, because I'm giving away some trade secrets. Anyway, let me get back to this movie and the Acolyte, right? Because I got to bring these things together. So, we find out that the abbot of the monastery and Drunken Cat had the same master. They come from the same martial arts clan. And what the abbot tells the gang is that, Drunken Cat, that wasn't originally his name. He killed our master and took his he had this bamboo staff that he used as a weapon. He stole the master's weapon, and his skills have diminished because I guess the guilt from what happened, he's drunk all the time, right? And so that's why he's Drunken Cat, because he's drunk all the time. That's what everybody calls him now. That's not what really happened. What later we learned what actually happened was that the abbot killed their master, and Drunken Cat took the bamboo staff to keep him from getting it, because I think it was something like he had like this iron body skill, and that bamboo could like pierce his flesh. Like iron body, like weapons can't, because later at the end of the movie, after they had the big Act 3 climax, big fight, A golden swallow like pretty much wipes out the gang and rescues her brother. And then the abbot shows up and she stabs him, and he's just like laughs at her, and then he takes her daggers and just snaps them in half like they're nothing. And then he's about to kill her, and then Drunken Cat shows up and they fight. It wasn't really a draw because Drunken Cat actually had the advantage, and the abbot yields, and he's like, well, if you're going to finish me off, go on and do it. And he was like, you know what, because you saved me, and told the master to take me in. And the way like Chinese martial arts work is, yeah, you have a master, but if there's a senior, the senior brother or the senior student is the one who's mostly kind of doing the training. So in a Star Wars sense, because I was about to talk about Bruce Lee, but some of y'all don't care. In a Star Wars sense, imagine if Qui-Gon had not died, right? And maybe if he had defeated Obi-Wan, if he had defeated Darth Maul, then Obi-Wan probably wouldn't have been knighted yet. He probably still would have had to do his trials, right? And that was the thing. Like, I'm ready to do my trials. I'm ready to face my trials, master, right? Let's say they did knight Obi-Wan. It's more like kind of Ahsoka. That's another example. I could go with Ahsoka. Well, no, because Obi-Wan wasn't Ahsoka's master. I'll stick with if Qui-Gon had lived, if Maul hadn't killed him, right? Qui-Gon would have been the master of Obi-Wan and Anakin, right? Now, maybe Obi-Wan is a knight now, but just for the sake of this, let's say Obi-Wan was the one actually doing a lot of Anakin's training, right? They're all going out on missions. They're in the field. Anakin is with Obi-Wan and Qui-Gon, right? Qui-Gon has to handle, official Jedi business. Anakin's with Obi-Wan, right? We're just going to make that work. That's the way things, there was another Wuxia series that I really wanted to get on here and talk about like 2 years ago. Like, what if Star Wars had been more like this? And that actually was the case where the character, where I would have said, yeah, this guy would have been like Obi-Wan. He was a senior. This kid who was like the chosen one, the Anakin came to, they were supposed to be kind of like, sort of like the Wudong, but different. But they essentially were, Wudong, because they specialize in swordsmanship and stuff, right? So their master was the one that found and saved the Anakin character. He was the Qui-Gon, and what happened is he got injured, like trying to deal with like this dark side presence. So he was always like in constant meditation because of this injury, trying to keep this dark force from killing the Anakin kid, right? So it'd have been like, so Qui-Gon was there, but he was always in meditation. And so Obi-Wan had to train the Anakin character there, the Obi-Wan character, right? The older brother, right? So I'm going too far with this. My point is that the abbot was the one who was doing a lot of Drunken Cat's training, even though they had the same master, right? So he spared him because he's like, you saved my life. You're the one who trained me, this and that. And then, they get to the end and they have to fight. And the abbot can't deal with just taking the loss and walking away. He comes into Drunken Cat's house and attacks him, and that's how the movie ends, is they fight and the abbot dies, right? So how does this relate to the Acolyte? Ooh-wee. I don't know. I told y'all all of that because I don't know, because I keep looking at Vestra Ro, because she was not bald as a child, right? But now she's bald and she's got the tattoos on her head. And everybody's assumption is that, oh, well, she's the one responsible for putting the scars on Chimere's back. She must have been his master. All he said was the person who threw me away. And I'm trying to work through this. Like, first off, Vestra Ro, at some point, she lost faith in the Jedi Order, and she became like this, not a Wayfinder. What is it? It's not a Wayfinder Jedi. It's way something. Basically, I don't know what the title is, and I haven't read these books. I'm looking on Wikipedia, just to get quick summaries to kind of wrap my head around this. But she spent a lot of time out in wild space, kind of following the will of the Force, is whatever like the title for these Jedi are. Is they go away and they just like follow the will of the Force. I don't know what happened to her out there. I don't know what adventure she did, but I'm thinking that she and Chimera crossed paths while she was in wild space. Maybe she took him on as an apprentice. Maybe she flirted with the dark side, and she was the one who encountered the Sith, and so did Chimera. I don't know. But whatever's going on with Chimera, I just keep thinking about that abbot, and I keep looking at Vestra Ro, and I was like, what if it's Soul? Like, what if it's Soul and Chimera and Soul have some kind of history? They had the same master, something like that. But I look at Soul as, I think he's a good person that did something bad and didn't really know what to do, just trying to follow the Jedi as best he could. And it's like, oh, I really messed up and I got away with it, but I still have that guilt. And now I have May, who I thought was dead. And it's like, oh, it's all like the skeletons have come out of the closet. But what about this Abbott character? And this is why I was like, this might be a cheat code, because so much of this movie I'm seeing in the series, who would be that Abbott character? And if the Abbott was bad and Drunken Cat was good, then if you flip it, Chimera is quote unquote bad and the Abbott is good. Right? But either way, they still have that same relationship. The Abbott finds Drunken Cat. The character who's the Abbott in the Acolyte throws him away. And I keep looking at Vestra Ro, because, man, like the Abbott was a Shaolin monk and high ranking, who was the highest ranking character, who's an active character within this series. Yeah, we've seen Ki-Adi-Mundi and other, but even then, like, even when we saw Ki-Adi-Mundi, who was giving the orders? Vestra Ro. She's, like 140 something years old at this point, and like the youngest person in a long time to become a Jedi Knight at the age of 15. And she's done all these great things during the High Republic, dealing with the Nile and who knows what else, right? She's just below the High Council, right? We're talking about sitting up there with Yoda, right? And she's dealing with senators and everything else. And there's something, I'm seeing her as this Abbott character, right? If so much of this is echoing what's happening, and then with Golden Swallow ends up wiping out the gang, does that mean that Osha, because Osha at this point is now becoming the Golden Swallow character, she's reconnecting with the Force, and she's gonna be even bigger and badder than her sister was? And Leslye Headland said things are about to get very dark, and there's another Sith who is supposed to appear. Now I'm thinking, that Tenebrous is showing up, Plagueis is showing up, but what if the Sith that shows up is already there? They're just not a Sith yet, right? And do we have a confirmation that Chimera is actually Sith? He said to Soul, the Jedi would call me Sith. He's got a red lightsaber. He knows the Sith code. But what is it in relation to you, from your understanding, you would call me Sith, or is he really Sith? And so I'm just right now, what I'm thinking is he and Vestra Ro had the same master. Like they were two Jedi working together somehow, some way, shape, or form. And maybe she chose to go back to the light and come out of being this wanderer Jedi, whatever. If it was during that phase of her life, her career, and she chose to go back to the order, and maybe he tried to stop her or whatever. They had a fight, and everybody's like, well, you look at what she did to the Umbra Moth when she hit the Umbra Moth with the light whip, and if she hit Chimera with that light whip, she would have split him in half. And I'm like, well, Kylo Ren sliced Finn up the back, and it didn't cut him in half. Maybe she kind of barely nicked him, or we don't know how bad it was, right? It could have been very bad. I don't know. You can tell that whatever hit him, you can see visible stitches on the wound, right? Where the scar tissue is over stitching. So whatever did that, it was a deep cut, and it was pretty bad, right? So I don't know. If I had to tie this to the movie and say, yo, man, the Acolyte series is going to follow this movie, then I would say that Vestra Ro is dirty, right? She and Chimera have some kind of relationship. The story of him falling to the dark side involves her, and she wants to cover this up. As far as Osha and May, I don't know, because like Golden Swallow walks away as a hero. For me, I'm like, Osha this is about Osha, and yeah, she's on a hero's journey, but I think it's a hero's journey of a different kind, where I don't think she's going to go back to the Jedi Order. I think she's going to find her power, because in Come Drink With Me, there's a scene where like Drunken Cat kind of displays his internal power, and I was kind of zoning out, not paying attention because my daughter had woken up. And so I wasn't really sure what the dialogue, he was just kind of showing her his internal power, right? And I don't know if there was some kind of training, like he was training her or what, because I really wasn't paying attention at that point. Like I said, I zoned out for that part, because this movie, it was kind of difficult to watch. Just those old movies and the action and stuff that I'm used to now, like the modern Wuxia stuff with all the CGI and Donnie Yen doing all this super cool stuff. Like he's got one movie, I think it's like Sakura or something, and it's crazy. It's like, man, it's almost watching, oh no, The Witch. The Witch is a Korean, like kind of, I don't know if I can call it wuxia, because it's not like Chinese fantasy, but man, the Witch series is like watching live action Dragon Ball or something. And stuff is crazy. So to go back and watch stuff from the 60s, like even they actually did like force pushes in the movie, and it was like they were spraying out so you could see the displacement in the air, but it was like they had like cans of hairspray or something. It was like spraying out of their palm, but that was so you could understand like they were displacing the air, like trying to push each other with their chi or whatever. So I don't know. Like I said, some parts of this were difficult to watch, but it really got the brain going. Like you go, what are they doing? Like how much of this did she take the entire movie and like spin the Acolyte series? Because I thought it was just Chimera's character, but everything I've seen up to episode 5 was right there in the movie. And so, like I said, if I had to guess, I would say that that Chimera's gonna make it through the rest of the series, and I think he and Osha might go their separate ways. I don't know what that means for her. I feel like she's going to fall to the dark side, or maybe she becomes something else. She falls to the dark side, but she's something else, and everything they're doing brings about the reemergence of the Sith. But I think Vestra Ro is dirty, and if she's the Abbott character, hey man, she's got to die. But who knows? Like I said, they flip things, so maybe this time the Abbott lives and Drunken Cat dies. So Chimere dies. I don't know. That's something we're just gonna. I'm more interested in seeing, does Vestra Ro, does she line up with this Abbott character, meaning she knows who the stranger Chimere is, and I'm thinking she does. The way she, because the same thing happened. The Abbott looked at those bodies that Drunken Cat killed and brought back to the gang. That's the same thing she did in episode 5, where she's looking at and it's like she knows something. And the Padawan, what is his name, Mog, he's like plants it on Soul, and I'm thinking she's not really riding with that, but she's kind of keeping things to herself right now, right? What Soul and May are I don't know. I think Soul might know how to locate. He might know how to locate Osha, and I think he's gonna get his heart broken, when he sees that Osha's like, I'm not rocking with y'all anymore, especially when she finds out what really happened on Brendock, and that will come out. I don't want to see Soul get murked, but I think your boy might get, I think that might happen. And it wouldn't surprise me at all if it ends up being Osha who does it, to like sever that bond she has with her master. That would be rough, but I don't know, man. I have a lot of thoughts, but I don't know. You guys, you can hear what I said. You can go watch the movie. I've talked almost, the movie's probably like 40 minutes longer than this video is going to be, but I don't know. It's so crazy, man. I've never seen something where I'm watching a show and the showrunner's like, oh yeah, I was inspired by this. And I go watch that movie and I'm like, what the hell? Like, this is point by point. Every major point that's happened up to this point in the show, I'm seeing in the movie. Like, this is insane. So I don't really have a prediction. I can only say that let's pay attention to Vestra Ro and there's only 2 episodes left, and see, does she line up with the Abbott? Does she end up knowing who the master, who Chimere is, who Drunken Cat is, and do they have some history? That's the only thing that I can say to watch, because if everything else plays out similarly or could be flipped, or maybe she completely parts from, all right, I've taken enough inspiration from Come Drink With Me, I'm going to do something else. But she said that all the storylines kind of wrap up by the last episode, because she's like, I don't know if we're going to get a season 2, so I'm going to wrap everything up, and then I got a game plan if we do get a season 2. She says there's going to be like 4 or 5 new mysteries to deal with, and so we'll have to see. So I don't know, y'all. This is pretty insane. What do you guys think about everything that I had to share here? I'd love to hear your thoughts. This is going to be an off the dome episode, so I got a couple of slip ups at the beginning that y'all obviously aren't going to see. I'm going to cut those out and then post this pretty much unedited, and I'll be reading the comments to see what you guys think about everything I had to share here. So yeah, if you got any comments, likes, gripes, let me know your thoughts in the comments below. I'll be checking back to see what you all have to say. And yeah, if you haven't subscribed already, then take your first steps towards becoming a member of the Urban Acolyte community. And something, I don't even remember the old way I used to close. Something about become a force for change in your community today. I think I'm just going to stop saying that. Hey man, take your first steps towards becoming an Urban Acolyte. Yeah, it's midnight here, so I gotta go to bed, y'all. I'm sick. Hit that subscribe button, ring the notification bell, and holler at me on the next video. When I'm feeling better, I'll review episode 6 and try to say stuff that I haven't already said in this video. So that's all I got for this one. Thanks for watching. Thanks for hanging out. Y'all keep on breathing, and may the force of others be with you always.